So 2000 Honda Accord 2.3 inline 4 VTEC engine. Issue is it has very negative fuel trims at idle. Talking 15, 20, 25% negative. Has random misfire codes. It's been to some different shops throwing parts at it. People can't figure it out. So now it's our turn to take a look at it. But it very negative fuel trims at idle. And it's got random misfire codes. We'll hook the tail up. As soon as you touch the gas, get off gas, or get it off idle, it runs a lot better. We did a compression check on each cylinder. We got 155, 150, 155 on all 4 cylinders. It's a little low for the specifications for this car, I believe. Other guys out in the field are getting 175, 200. So now we're going to do a cylinder leak down check and see if that's what's causing all of our cylinders to be, you know, if it's a valve issue, if it's a head gasket issue, or if it's a ring issue. We'll do some real quick checks and see if that's what's causing it. I believe that's what's causing this thing to run very rich just at idle. So, got my holes in here. Make sure you take the Schrader valve out. Really, I don't need to be on camera that much. Schrader valves out of the holes in here. We're on TDC on cylinder 1 here. I know that because, and on the compression stroke TDC, these valves are loose. Or not loose, but there's backlash in here. So we got that. Now we're going to go ahead, make sure this is tight. It is. Engine's warmed up. I'm going to go ahead and take our leak down tester here. Hook this up. Set this gauge to 0. Right there. Lock it. Plug this in. Typically, most servicemen will say no more than 25% leakage. They're showing green in here is low, up to 40, but typically you don't want more than 25%. Hook it up. We got 40. But you can hear some air leaking in there. So if you listen closely, you can hear air. We're going to go ahead and do cylinder 2 next. Or not 2. We're going to do the firing order. Actually, we'll just do an order this way. We'll just crank it. Actually, we'll do the firing order. 1, 3, 4, 2 on this one. And go from there. All right, so now we're going to go. That was cylinder 1. The firing order is 1, 3, 4, 2. We're going to do 3 next. He's going to crank over there on the pulley. Get the wrench. Hard to see in there. Oh, okay. We're gonna watch that rod go up. It went down. What are you doing? Go back. You know. All right, so we're coming up to top dead center here. Sorry about my assistant. He's he had a long night last night. So we get up to top dead center. Okay, stop. That one's loose. Loose. Not loose, but backlash, backlash, backlash. Do the same checks. Want to make sure they're backlash. That way all these valves, 2 exhaust, 2 intake are closed. We'll do the same test. So I'm going to thread this in. No Schrader valve. Make sure it's tight so it seals. Reset this to 0. It's pretty close, but I'll reset it. Alright, hang on. It's kind of touchy. Right there, lock it. Watch the gauge. Want to hook it up to cylinder 3. 25, 35, 40, well 40, 35%. So kind of like the other one. So we're going to move on to the next one. So now we're on 4, TDC, backlash, backlash, backlash. Tighten these up. Reset this to 0. Good. Watch the gauge. Good God. 65% leakage. These are tight, or I mean backlashed. So if you want to listen up here, you'll be able to hear air. When I do this, I'll give it some more air pressure. You can hear air leaking there. So I'm going to do the last cylinder and go from there. All right, so now we're on to the last one. Backlash, 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 all good. Just playing there. Throw this guy back in. Reset our gauge to 0 here. 0. Watch the gauge. So 40%. So if you look back up the engine, up here, that's a clue for you to move the camera back to the engine. Sorry. Now, so we got 40, 40, 40, and 60% leakage. If you look at the gauge, that's another clue to move the camera to the gauge. Thank you. So green on here says it's low, but anything I see reading the service manual, like 25%, right? We're in moderate leakage up there when we had the last one. But I believe that's what's causing a rich condition because, well, it's got 306,000 miles on this engine. It does have a new timing belt in it. It's been a lot of other work done to it, but I mean that makes sense. Everything, why it's just mechanically worn out. Now we can try to figure out if it's an intake valve. If you can look up here. So if it's an intake valve leaking, you would hear it from your intake leaking. If it's an exhaust, you hear it off your exhaust pipe. If it's antifreeze, you can see it bubbling in your radiator. Or not if it's antifreeze. If it's a head gasket, see it bubbling in your radiator, your cooling system. And if it's in your rings, you can hear it in your crankcase, which I can hear air in there. I think it's in the crankcase. And I mean, it could be an intake valve as well. So now what we're going to do to see if it is rings, we're going to put some oil in here and see, and then crank the engine by hand. That'll seal up and see if actually it'll increase or lower our leakage test, and we'll go from there. So I wanted to check cylinder 4 again because on these other ones I got 40, 40, 40 leak down, and then I got 60. I just wanted to check it again, and again I got 60% leak down. So now we're going to do the oil, put some oil in there, crank it by hand, see if we can maybe determine if it's rings. Because I don't really hear nothing leaking out the intake or the exhaust. I took a check or took a look. So we do the oil thing and then go from there. All right, so now we put some oil in number 4. We did the same test. We put oil in with a straw, some 530 oil there, and then we, I don't know, rotate it 3, 4, 5 times. Put it to TDC. Make sure there's no push or pressure on the valves. This time we didn't get 60%, we got like 45. So that basically ensured that it is the rings. And when we listen to the pressure or the air, I can hear it in the crankcase, which tells me it's rings. So definitely just a weak engine, 306,000 miles, and mechanically, that's why when they put all the other stuff on this car, I never fixed it. I mean, it helped some stuff, like the L2 sensor reads got better, and timing is better because the belt was stretched, but there's still, it's mechanically, it's just worn out motor, 306,000 miles. Cylinder leakage is excessive because of the worn out piston rings. So we'll talk to the customer and see if he wants to go farther, but more than likely I would think he would just want to drive it, and it just runs like crap at idle. Or not like crap, but it has a slight misfire at idle because of the weak compression, and you don't notice it really at higher RPM. So that is it for this 2000 Honda Accord 2.3 cylinder engine. So we could do each cylinder with oil, see if it's rings on all of them. We know this one's rings. The other ones could be rings, could be intake valve, could be exhaust valve. But either way, the head's got to come off, right? I mean, the engine, is it worth fixing it? Probably not. So, I mean, maybe the customer wants us to fix it, but I kind of doubt it. You know, if you need rings and you got to do a head job and all that, of course, it's going to get very spendy quick. But if you listen closely, you can hear air leaking in the crankcase. So I checked The intake, nothing, exhaust, nothing, but I can hear it in the crankcase. So that'll be it. I know I keep saying that, but that is it for this 2000 Honda Accord. Needs rings and probably a head job, and that's why it's running really rich at idle.